I've always loved late-night walks. There's something peaceful about the stillness, like the world finally shuts up long enough for you to hear yourself think. I've been a welder my whole life, more than 40 years now. These days, it's just me and my old dog Bosley, living out here on this big piece of farmland. The house is way too big for one man, but I could never bring myself to leave it. Not after Maria passed, my wife. My kids are grown, off living their own lives, and when cancer took her, it left a quiet that never really went away. Most nights, Bosley and I just sit around the house, but sometimes, when the air feels right, I take him out for a walk. My property's pretty big, so one loop around is usually enough to clear my head. The night was cool, calm, and Bosley trotted beside me like he always does. Sometimes I think he understands me better than anyone else ever could. I've walked that same loop around my property hundreds of times, but that night felt different. The air was heavy, quiet, almost too still. As I turned back toward the house, something made me stop. I looked up at the second-story window, the one from the bedroom Maria and I used to share, and I froze. For a split second, I saw something move behind the curtain. My heart jumped. No one should have been up there. I hadn't stepped foot in that room since Maria passed away. The thought of a stranger inside my house sent anger rushing through me. I ran back inside, Bosley barking behind me, and stormed upstairs. The room was empty, untouched, just as I'd left it years ago. I searched every corner, every drawer, but there was nothing. Still, I couldn't shake that feeling, like something had been there, watching me. The next night, I woke to Bosley growling. Low, deep, steady. He never made a sound unless there was a reason. Then I heard it, slow creaking coming from upstairs. Maybe it was just the old house settling, I told myself, but deep down I knew better. Those were footsteps. And they were coming from right above me. I knew exactly which room that was. My chest tightened. I grabbed my flashlight and crept upstairs. The sound stopped. I pushed the door open. The air inside was cold, still, heavier than before. The room looked exactly the same, but something about it felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. I backed out, heart racing. I didn't sleep a minute that night. The following night, things got worse. I came downstairs and found the kitchen lights on. I always turned them off before bed, always. My stomach twisted. Someone was in my house. I called the police, told them I thought someone was sneaking around. 2 officers came, searched every inch of the place, found nothing. They were polite, but clearly didn't believe me. When they left, the silence that filled the house felt heavier than ever. I stood there alone, convinced I wasn't losing my mind. The next night proved it. I couldn't sleep, so I went upstairs again, thinking maybe facing that room would calm me down. But when I opened the door, I froze. Clothes were scattered all over the floor. Maria's clothes. I had packed them away after she died. Now they were everywhere. My blood ran cold. That's when I saw her. A woman standing in the doorway, staring at me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I knew she wasn't Maria. She was shorter, darker haired, and completely still. Without thinking, I ran at her. She turned and bolted down the stairs and out the front door. I chased her outside, but she was gone. No sound, no tracks, nothing. Just the night swallowing her whole. After that, I stopped sleeping. Every sound made me jump. Every creak in the walls felt like footsteps. I kept my rifle by the bed, waiting for the moment I'd have to use it. I thought about asking my brother to stay with me, but pride held me back. I told myself I could handle it, but deep down, I was terrified. Weeks passed before I saw her again. I was in the living room, half asleep on the couch, when Bosley started growling. I looked toward the window, and there she was, standing in the yard, still as stone, just watching me. Her face hidden by the dark, but I could feel her eyes locked on me. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I grabbed my rifle and ran outside, Bosley beside me. The woman didn't move. She just stood there under the moonlight, silent, almost unreal. I fired a few warning shots into the air, and she finally turned and ran, disappearing into the trees. I waited outside for nearly an hour, staring into the dark, but she never came back. Still, that didn't bring me peace. Because even now, sometimes when the wind hits the house just right, I swear I can hear footsteps upstairs. And every single time I wonder if she ever really left. I haven't seen her since, but I know it's only a matter of time. I'm ready to defend myself, yet living with this constant fear isn't something I can keep doing forever. Thank God for Bosley. I honestly don't know what I'd do without him. And I promise I'll post an update if anything else happens. I work for a catering company, which means I'm on the road a lot, usually late at night, hauling gear from one event to another in a huge company truck. It's not a bad job, but the hours are rough and not what I imagined for my life. Most nights I get home either too wired from caffeine to sleep or so exhausted I pass out instantly. One night around 2 a.m. I was finally driving home in my own car, enjoying the quiet, but after too many Red Bulls, I knew sleep wasn't happening. I was starving too, hadn't eaten in hours. There's a McDonald's just off the highway about 10 minutes from my house. It's my usual late night stop. I don't eat fast food often, but sometimes nothing beats a handful of fries at 2 in the morning. It's open all night, and that greasy comfort food felt like exactly what I needed to unwind. It was sometime after 2 in the morning when I finally pulled into the McDonald's drive-thru. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember the air. Still, cold, with that strange emptiness that only exists after midnight. A few cars were ahead of me, which surprised me because that McDonald's was never busy at this hour, especially not on a random Tuesday night. I sat there half zoned out, waiting for my turn, my brain running on caffeine and fumes, when something caught my eye. In the far corner of the parking lot, away from the lights, sat an old, beat-up Volkswagen. Its paint was dull, the windows tinted pitch black. It was backed into a space that faced the lot, headlights off, engine running. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I realized the inside of the restaurant was closed. Only the drive-thru was open this late. So what was someone doing just sitting there in the dark? Employees parked on the opposite side, and there weren't any houses nearby. Maybe someone was just eating in their car, I told myself. I'd done that before too, scarfing down fries in the quiet. But something about that Volkswagen felt wrong. The way it sat there, still, silent, like it was waiting for something. Or someone. I tried not to stare, but the longer I looked, the more uneasy I felt. I grabbed my food and left, telling myself I was being paranoid. I didn't feel like going home yet, though. The idea of sitting in my room, staring at the ceiling wide awake, wasn't appealing. I wanted a spot to eat and clear my head. My town's surrounded by thick woods and winding roads, and there's this huge nature preserve just down the street from my neighborhood. It's basically an endless forest that stretches up a mountain, with a lookout point at the top that gives a perfect view of the city lights. My friends and I used to go there all the time in high school. We'd sit on the old stone wall near the edge, talk about life, share a few smokes, and just breathe. I hadn't been back there in years. Between work and late shifts, life got too busy. So I figured, why not? Maybe a little nostalgia was exactly what I needed. When I pulled into the gravel clearing that served as the parking area, the place was completely empty. The preserve had long been closed, meaning the main road gate was shut, but you could still park outside and walk up the paved path to the top. It wasn't exactly legal, but people did it all the time. I killed the engine and unwrapped my burger when I saw another pair of headlights turn into the lot. My heart immediately started pounding. No one comes here this late. The light swung across the gravel, then stopped. About 20 feet away from me, I squinted through the windshield and felt my stomach drop. It was the same Volkswagen from McDonald's. Same faded paint, same tinted windows. I was sure of it. For a moment, I froze. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But what were the odds? Out of all the places in town, the same car shows up here? I leaned back, trying not to stare, but my pulse wouldn't slow down. The Volkswagen's lights flicked off, engine still running. No one got out. Just silence. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Eventually, my fear started to fade. I told myself it was fine. Maybe they just wanted a quiet place to eat. Same as me. Still, the unease stayed, sitting in the back of my mind like a whisper. I thought about heading home, but I didn't want to be alone, so I FaceTimed my buddy Sebastian. He lived about 10 minutes away. To my surprise, he actually picked up. Turns out, he'd been up late working on a paper. I told him where I was and asked if he wanted to come chill for a bit. He agreed instantly, said he'd be there in 10. Waiting for him felt like an eternity. The Volkswagen still hadn't moved. No lights, no sound, no sign of life. I sat there gripping my soda, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. When Sebastian's headlights finally appeared in my rearview mirror, the relief hit me like air after drowning. He parked beside me, stepped out of his car, and we started walking up the path toward the lookout point. The night was so quiet that our footsteps echoed on the pavement. I glanced back one last time before the lot disappeared from view, and that's when I saw it. All 4 doors of the Volkswagen opened at once. 4 guys stepped out. They didn't talk, they just stood there, facing different directions, looking around. No movement, no words, just this eerie stillness. I nudged Sebastian. He followed my gaze, his face tightening. Before they noticed us, we turned and kept walking until the trees blocked our view. I could feel my heart in my throat. Something about those guys felt wrong, like they weren't there to relax. By the time we reached the top, the city lights stretched out like stars below us. For a moment, the beauty of it washed the fear away. We sat on the stone wall, unwrapped our food, and talked like old times. But the calm didn't last. Voices echoed from down the path. Laughter, low and sharp. 3 guys appeared out of the dark, heading straight for us. They were the same ones from the Volkswagen. One of them, the one holding a blunt, had tattoos crawling up his neck and a nose ring that glinted in the moonlight. He gave this half smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You guys want to smoke?" he asked. Sebastian and I both said no. One of his friends laughed under his breath and muttered something I won't repeat. My stomach twisted. I tried to play it cool, but curiosity slipped out before I could stop myself. "You guys were at McDonald's earlier, right?" The guy with the blunt stopped smiling instantly. His eyes narrowed. The air went cold. The 2 behind him stared at us like we'd said something we shouldn't have. And that's when it hit me. There had been 4 of them in that car, but only 3 were standing in front of us. Where was the 4th? Sebastian must have realized it at the same time because his body tensed beside me. My instincts screamed to run. Finally, the tattooed guy broke the silence. "I work nights," he said slowly, pulling his hoodie aside to show a McDonald's logo on his shirt. "Just got off my shift. We come here after work to chill." The words sounded rehearsed. Too neat. He knew what I was thinking. I nodded, forcing a fake smile, pretending to believe him. "Cool spot," I said, trying to act casual. Sebastian met my eyes. He didn't buy it either. We stood up, tossing our wrappers away, saying we were heading out. As we turned to leave, Sebastian suddenly froze. "Dude," he whispered, pointing into the woods. My eyes followed his hand, and there he was, the 4th guy, standing halfway behind a tree, half his face hidden in shadow. He wasn't moving, just watching us. Then I noticed something glinting in his hand. I couldn't tell what it was, but it wasn't small. The moment he realized we'd seen him, he stepped forward. That's when we ran. We bolted down the path as fast as we could, the sound of our shoes slapping against the pavement mixing with the rustling leaves behind us. I could hear footsteps, heavy, fast, getting closer. Sebastian shouted something, but I couldn't make it out. My heart was hammering so hard it drowned out everything else. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I could feel them right behind us. The path curved, the parking lot coming into view. We sprinted the last stretch, fumbling for our keys, diving into our cars. Engines roared to life. I peeled out of there, gravel spraying behind me. In the rear view mirror, I saw the 4 of them rushing to get back into their Volkswagen. Headlights flaring as I sped down the road. I didn't drive straight home. I was terrified they'd follow me. I called Sebastian, told him to meet on his street instead. We regrouped there, shaking, breathless, both trying to make sense of what just happened. Were they trying to rob us? Attack us? We had no idea. Sebastian showed me his phone. He'd managed to snap a photo of them when they first walked up. He sent it to me, and we both sat there, unsure what to do next. The next day, we went back to McDonald's to report what happened. We showed the photo to one of the younger workers behind the counter, hoping he'd recognize them. The moment he saw the picture, his eyes went wide. He told us something straight out of a horror movie. Apparently, the guy with the tattoos used to work there, until a few months ago when he got fired after stalking and harassing his ex-girlfriend, who had also worked at that same McDonald's. She'd filed a restraining order, but he'd been violating it constantly. Showing up at night, camping out in the parking lot to watch her. Hearing that made my skin crawl. That night, I wasn't just being paranoid, I was being followed by someone dangerous. The police got involved later, and apparently they were already looking for him. I don't know what happened after that, but I haven't been back to that McDonald's since. And every time I pass that nature preserve at night, I swear I can still see headlights sitting in the far corner of the lot, engine running, waiting. Sebastian and I were completely shaken. I still don't understand why he decided to follow me, but one thing was clear, he wasn't stable. Knowing he's still out there somewhere makes my skin crawl. I'm praying the police finally catch him hanging around that parking lot, because if they do, he's done for. It's only been a week, but I haven't gone back to that McDonald's or the preserve since that night. Every time I drive past the exit, my chest tightens and I can't help but check my mirrors, half expecting to see those same headlights behind me again. Maybe the police will handle it, maybe not, but for now, I'm just grateful we made it out. Forgive me if some of the details are a little fuzzy. It's been years since this happened. I grew up in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, a small, quiet town where not much ever goes on. Back in high school, my friends and I were always looking for something exciting to do, and most of the time that meant sneaking into old abandoned buildings just to explore. I didn't realize until years later how common that hobby actually was. Apparently a lot of people love chasing the thrill of forgotten places. For us, there was one spot that became our go-to adventure. The old abandoned church in Narberth. I still remember the exact address, 198 Elmwood Avenue. The building had been empty for as long as anyone could remember, its paint peeling, windows cracked, and doors barely hanging on. It was creepy, sure, but there was something magnetic about it. That fall evening, the air was cool and sharp, and 6 of us, me, Luna, Gina, Johnny, Max, and Allie, decided to check it out again. We brought a few drinks, planning to hang out, laugh, and maybe scare each other a little. It was supposed to be just another harmless night of teenage fun. We had no idea how wrong we were. The old church sat behind an 8-foot chain-link fence, the metal cold and crooked from age. We climbed it every time, shoes clanging against steel until we dropped down on the other side. All the doors were boarded up, so we always slipped through a side window barely big enough to crawl through. Inside, the smell hit first. Dust, rot, and something sour. The floor was mostly gone, ripped out long ago, leaving bare dirt and a gaping hole in the center where a narrow set of concrete stairs led into the basement. That's where we always went. The basement had 3 rooms, though only one still had a door. The others were open, their frames splintered. We entered the biggest one first, where a few broken chairs and an old couch sat half buried in dust. Johnny, half drunk, couldn't stop laughing, his voice bouncing off the walls. I kept shushing him, the echoes already making my nerves buzz. Still, being in a big group helped. We felt braver together. We drank, joked, and tried to pretend the place didn't creep us out. Then, without warning, a door slammed. It was so loud it made my chest tighten. Everyone froze. The sound came from somewhere deeper inside, and there was no wind, no draft, nothing that could have caused it. Luna, Gina, and Johnny bolted for the stairs, leaving me, Max, and Allie behind. None of us wanted to look like cowards, but I could feel my pulse racing. We waited a few seconds in silence, then decided to check it out. We crept toward the closed door, flashlights trembling. When I touched the handle, it felt cold, almost wet. I pushed it open slowly, and our lights cut through the darkness. Inside was a small room, barely big enough for the 3 of us. Against the wall stood a dresser with a cracked mirror streaked in something red. At first I thought it was paint, but when I stepped closer my stomach turned. It was still sticky, not dried, and someone or something had been here recently. Then I saw the photograph. A black and white picture of a woman in a wedding dress, smiling in a way that didn't feel right. Her eyes looked almost alive in the light. I stepped back, trying not to panic. Then came another noise. Not a slam this time, but a slow, dragging sound from the other room, the one we had just left. Allie gasped, and Max whispered, "We need to go." None of us hesitated. We grabbed our stuff and sprinted for the stairs. Every creak of the old steps sounded like footsteps chasing us. We scrambled through the window, tore our clothes climbing over the fence, and didn't stop running until we hit the pavement. When I finally turned back, the church stood silent against the night sky. The window we'd climbed through was still open. For just a second, I saw a tall shadow standing there, perfectly still, watching us. I blinked and it was gone. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks, maybe not, but to this day, whenever I drive past 198 Elmwood Avenue, I still feel that same cold shiver down my spine, the kind that tells you something in that church never really left. My friends and I never went back there after that night, not once. Even though we stayed close for years, none of us ever brought it up again, like saying it out loud might somehow make it real. Years later, I drove by the spot out of curiosity, but the church was gone, completely demolished, just an empty lot where it used to stand, like it was erased on purpose. I still have no idea what we saw that night, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to. I'm just thankful I wasn't alone, because if I had been, I might have convinced myself it was all in my head. If anyone out there lives near Ardmore or Narberth and wants to dig into it, go ahead. I could never find anything about that church online, but I wouldn't be surprised if it had a dark history no one ever talked about. What about you? Have you ever explored somewhere abandoned and felt like something was watching you? Tell me your story in the comments, and if you love true late-night horror stories like this, make sure to watch the next video.